The boss from Smiling Friends isn't exactly what you would call a straightforward character. And even in a world as manic as the one that encompasses the Smiling Friends, the boss truly stands out as being a little bit extra cuckoo.
Can you head over and help him before he goes cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo?
However, despite his many quirks, the boss is easily one of the most beloved characters in all of Smiling Friends.
The job is for me, your favorite character, the boss.
And so, in today's video, we'll be dissecting the weird, wild, and wonderful side of the boss's personalities, in order to see if he is truly a manic monster, or if there is a big heart behind those paperclip fingers.
I really hurt my finger doing that paperclip bit.
Yeah, no, I saw.
In Season 1's pilot episode Desmond's Big Day Out, after a brief conversation between Alan, Pim, and Charlie about paperclips, the Smiling Friends building, for lack of a better phrase, starts to completely geek out. In turn, scaring off all of the poor residents nearby. However, as it turns out, this is just the boss's quirky way of calling Pim and Charlie to his office so that he can give them their next mission to make someone smile. With absolutely nothing strange happening in this scene whatsoever.
Tyson. Ow. Hey, no biting. Hey, no biting. Okay?
That's right, the boss is literally breastfeeding. And not only is he breastfeeding, but he's breastfeeding a homunculus who looks suspiciously like Charlie. And I'm not saying it's Charlie's son or anything, but boy, I'd love to see that episode of Maury Povich.
Chiari, you are not...
And so, after a rather eventful pilot episode, the boss takes somewhat of a backseat to the Mr. Frog storyline in episode 2.
I'm Mr. Frog. This is my show. I ate the bug. I ate the bug. This is the end. I love you.
However, one thing I thought was incredibly interesting in this episode is that when the boss is telling Pim and Charlie to go out and help Mr. Frog, his eyes turn red.
Well, if you boys are so interested, why don't you go help him out?
And usually, this would just be a funny little detail. However, in the Smiling Friends universe, everyone who is truly evil is seen to have red eyes, such as the abusive studio executive Rex and James, the monster who terrorizes Charlie in the Gwimbly episode.
It depends. Are you sad?
Yeah, I am actually. Maybe if you get me a glass of milk, I'll be happy.
And so, either the boss truly is a demon, or, more likely in my opinion, he wanted to make a funny joke about being creepy whilst holding a bowl of pasta, and thus, being a creepy pasta. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? However, one thing that cannot be debated is that the boss clearly isn't all there mentally, with the boss showing clear signs of being bipolar and schizophrenic, with this behavior being exemplified in the episode Frowning Friends. You see, in this episode, we see the boss's equilibrium being disturbed for the very first time, as Grim and Gnarly set up a business called the Frowning Friends right across the street from the Smiling Friends. And after initially playing this off as healthy competition, the boss regresses into a completely manic state, having a conversation in his office with Warren Buffett, Ronald Reagan, and of course, Mr. Peanut, about how to save the company.
When the American public discovered I'd been filling my peanuts up with toxic pesticides, I decided to go on the Dick Cavett show and do a little peanut jig.
However, of course, none of these people are actually there. And if you think this is perhaps a little unhinged, the boss then has a battle with his inner self in the mirror, where we truly see his evil side come to the forefront.
I really can't. It's not right. Perhaps you're right.
And after this breakdown, the boss then prepares to kill Grim. However, this is where we witness the true dichotomy of the boss's psychology. As once Grim cries and pees in his pants in terror, not only does the boss show him mercy, but he also gives Grim a wholesome pep talk in which he encourages him for all of the work that he's done.
Hey, don't cry. You should be happy that your idea was so good that it drove me bonkers with jealousy. That's kind of cool, huh?
And finally, is able to make Grim smile. Although boy, the Renaissance men really really put an end to that, huh?
Fire!
And so, after this wholesome moment, perhaps the boss himself will try to be more peaceful and avoid having manic outbursts in the future, and yeah, that didn't happen. In fact, the boss, you could argue, is even more deranged in Season 2 of Smiling Friends, with the Season 2 opener starting off with Pim telling Charlie about how the boss cornered him and started yelling at him in a nonsensical language.
And then he started screaming like this.
He screamed
screaming
at you?
like sounds at me, and like he was stuck in a loop.
That's scary.
And as the episode progresses, we honestly don't really see much of the boss, as the episode focuses on Gwimbly, a down-on-his-luck PS2 mascot who Pim and Alan help to get back on his feet, albeit in Alan's case, it is rather reluctantly.
Yo, Alan, what are you hosing there, dude?
This homeless man won't leave, so I'm spraying him with dirty brown water.
And this storyline comes full circle as Gwimbly finally gets back on track with his own Super Smash Bros. Inspired game, with none other than the boss being a playable character in this title.
Come here.
Wait, is that the boss?
And Michael Cusack or Zach Hadel, if you're watching this, please release a game with the boss as a playable character. I will be playing that 24 hours out of a day. However, despite the boss having experienced a seemingly life-changing inclusion in this game, it truly seems like nothing has changed for the boss since the start of the episode, as he picks up right where he left off and starts looping in a horrific fashion.
Oh, that's where you were. We thought you went crazy.
Yep, guess I'm OOGEDLY DOO.
You may have noticed just briefly before that I said the boss being included in a game is a seemingly life-changing event for him, and that's most likely because it isn't, as the boss is one of the richest men in the entire Smiling Friends universe. In fact, the boss is so wealthy that when the Frowning Friends moved in across the street, within only a matter of days, the boss had lost $2.4 billion. And yeah, that would be enough to drive me crazy as well. However, it truly seems like this is only a fraction of his wealth, as in the Simon S. Salty episode in Season 1, we see the boss on a remote island getting an exotic massage when Pim and Charlie call about the murder mystery.
Hello?
Hey, Charlie, the owner of the famous Salty's restaurant was just brutally murdered, and I need you and Pim to figure out who did it. Thank you, bye.
And in the most recent episode where the boss, finds love, it's revealed that the succubus only goes after the most powerful and wealthy men of a generation, meaning that the boss truly has some exorbitant wealth and status.
It says she emerges once every 100 years and seeks men of great power and influence and sucks their life away, eventually killing them and giving all their belongings to Satan.
Although, despite his riches, the boss is still an incredibly effective team leader, with an Alan adventure showcasing the excellent way that the boss juggles the needs of Pim, Charlie, and of course, Alan. And the boss makes sure to reward his workers for performing well, with the boss gifting Alan a miniature version of himself for purely fetching him paperclips. And of course, the boss doesn't know about the $750,000 that the landlord used to torture Alan into playing Burnout on the PS2. And thus, on the surface, it's actually a very fair trade. However, much to the disappointment of the boss, Alan doesn't seem too thrilled with this gift.
That's a little version of me, Alan. I want you to have it.
I don't really want this.
And oh boy, if only the boss had read it. The people there really appreciate his miniatures. And during this Alan episode, there was a really interesting interaction between the store owner and Armzo that honestly really got me thinking.
And Armzo, if you screw up again, you're going back to the psych ward!
Psych ward. Where even is the psych ward in the Smiling Friends? That's right, the psych ward is literally right next to the Smiling Friends building. And so, putting on my finest Alex Bale cap, I truly think it's not out of the realm of possibility that the boss was able to somehow break or pay his way out of the asylum and build up a business next door. But of course, let me know what you think to that theory. I personally think it could have happened. I mean, after all, this man does own 1/4 of hell.
Do you see this line right here?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
means that my property starts right here.
That's not
It goes
what that-
all the way. That's my
That
fourth
is
of
not what
hell.
that means.
Okay, so a lot of this video thus far has been discussing all of the strange and sometimes evil patterns of behavior that the boss displays. However, despite this strange behavior, the boss is truly a kind man, with his company, the Smiling Friends, being a charitable organization that helps the most vulnerable and isolated people in society to once more put a smile on their face.
That felt good.
And given the fact that the Frowning Friends moving in cost the boss $2.4 billion, this means that the boss is actively investing billions of dollars into making other people smile, all whilst keeping Charlie, Pim, Alan, and Glep on payroll. And with the latest Smiling Friends episode, we also see that the boss has a soft spot for love. In fact, if anything, he's actually too trusting with his love, as a literal succubus is able to possess him and take all of his soul. However, thankfully for the boss, all of the kindness that he's shown to the Smiling Friends is repaid to him in full, as Charlie and Pim, after some trial and tribulation, are finally able to defeat the succubus. And with only the kiss of true love, the boss will be saved.
No, I'm just you.
And I truly think that the boss's sense of humor, whether intentional or unintentional, is one of his strongest points, as despite all of the craziness that he exudes throughout the show, the boss can still be counted on to brighten the Smiling Friends office with his colourful outfits or very quirky pop culture references.
It's a Christmas miracle.
And in my personal opinion, the funniest moment from the boss comes from this same episode where Charlie dies after chopping down a tree, and the boss gives a rather touching eulogy at his funeral.
Charlie, what does it mean? Charlie, you were my everything. World's up, man.
So, is the boss from Smiling Friends a psychotic villain or a lovable hero? Well, honestly, it's both. And for the boss, it truly seems like he can't have one without the other, as we've already seen in Season 2 how his demeanor changes from episode to episode, as the boss goes from falling in love and literally having his soul taken, to straight up plotting to assassinate Mr. Frog for winning the presidency and costing him $10,000.
Alright, well, whatever I do now is on Glep.
Gleb, why would you vote for Mr. Frog?
And it's this deeply dark mindset that, in my opinion, makes the boss able to appreciate the value of a smile, as all of the mental torment that the boss has endured throughout his life has made him want to spend billions of dollars on trying to help other people smile, so that they may never have to go down the dark paths that he has. And honestly, this may make him the greatest hero in Smiling Friends, as without him, there'd be no Smiling Friends offices, and thus, no team of Charlie, Pim, Alan, and Glep. And most importantly, without the boss, there would be far less smiles in the world, including my own, as the boss makes me smile every time I see him in an episode. But of course, let me know in the comments, what do you think of the boss? Do you see him as a villain or a hero? And as always,
Now don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that.
But in all seriousness, stay safe, stay happy, stay weird.